Hey travelers, Mag and I here on day 255 of our trip around the United States. Today marks the beginning of the end. We are now entering our final countdown. We have 100 days starting from today until we reach the completion of our goal to finish all of the counties and the pages in the lower 48 contiguous United States. We have been maintaining progress up to this point and staying right on time or ahead of time, and I have every expectation that over the next 100 days we will continue to do so as we see our goal through completion to the end. For today's route, we have 310 miles. We'll be starting from here in Turpin and making our way up into Kansas for just a little bit to get a couple of counties and pages moving through Liberal before we drop back down into Oklahoma once again. From there, we'll be making our way into Woodward and then dropping south into Cheyenne before we turn around and come up a little north and east to finish our day. I can tell you right now that Ivern is going to be very grateful that there are no hikes on our route today. The farthest where we're going to have to go from the car, 500 feet maximum. And after hiking more than 8 miles yesterday, I know she's going to be glad for that because her legs are like jelly and she doesn't want to move around a whole bunch. I can't wait to see what today has in store because we got started at sunrise. We have a full day filled with daylight ahead of us, and I'm sure that we're going to be finishing before the sun goes down. That by itself is pretty exciting. So let's see what today's trip through Oklahoma and that little jump into Kansas has in store. Come on, let's go.
Our day may begin and end in Oklahoma, but after making a few quick finds outside of Hooker, we immediately hop into Kansas to knock out a couple of county and pages along that southern edge. Barely north of the state line, we quickly make our way into Liberal, the county seat of Seward County with a population of about 20,000 people. The first house in the city was built in 1872 by Seymour Rogers. He became well known in the area for giving thirsty travelers free water. This town is said to be named for his acts of kindness. Next, we slide into Meade State Park, the only state park found in the southwest corner of Kansas. This oasis in the shortgrass prairie region consists of 444 acres of land situated around an 80-acre state fishing lake. The nature trails found here offer visitors an up-close look at the shortgrass prairie ecosystem. Adjacent to the state park, you will also find a large wildlife area and the Meade Fish Hatchery, the only hatchery in southwest Kansas. Our primary target here was a cache hidden all the way back in 2001. While I did find that it was a little more than 500 feet from the car, Ivern still didn't mind putting on a few extra 100 feet as long as we weren't hiking anything in the range we did yesterday. Still being early in the morning, it was the perfect time to get the dog to stretch out her sore leg muscles from the long hike yesterday. By the time I was popping the top on the ammo can and sorting through the contents inside, the dog had let me know that she was already ready to call it a day. We dropped back down south across the state line once again and watched the flat fields transition into flat grasslands as we moved from Kansas into Oklahoma. Well, I at least watched the transition. Ivern was already passed out hard. Like yesterday, most of the towns we passed through today were small. Very small, including Gate, which has a total population of about 60 people. This small town was first established in 1886 with the coming of the post office. It was so named because it stood as the gateway to a major ranching area. The town slowly grew around the post office until the railroad bypassed it in 1910. At that point, all the residents and businesses moved around the new location of the railroad. That was the point at which Gate reached its peak, with nearly 1,000 people living here. By the 1920s, though, more than 2/3 of those residents had relocated, and the numbers only continued to drop over the next 100 years. Now, the small town of Gate, with a population only in the double digits, like many of the small towns along the Oklahoma Panhandle, stands in remembrance of days gone by.
It's a combination of the eyes and the smile, but this man is up to no good. I would not leave your valuables with him. That's a bad idea.
Some of the listings we pursued today may have turned out to be rather squirrely, but there were plenty of geocaches to choose from along our route. This one turned out to be one of my favorites because not only was there funny signage and a great sized ammo can filled to the brim with swag, but I was also fortunate enough to be able to meet the cache owner before I hit the road on the way to our next targets. While I'm not entirely convinced the soda can was intended as swag, there was plenty of other good things in here still to choose from. Also, much like yesterday, we found ourselves popping in and out of local cemeteries pretty much all day long. The majority of these cemeteries even employed the same hide style, sending us straight into the cedar trees to hunt the hanging micros. While some were thick and bushy, providing ample cover, others had scant protection to keep the container out of our line of sight. We enjoyed each time we got to come into a cemetery as it provided a quiet place to hunt down a find. Outside of the cemeteries, there was actually quite a bit of variety in the hide styles that we came across today. Some we found hanging out inside of posts, and others we found hanging out even deeper than that. It is certainly not every day you come across a regular size listing employing a glass jar. Dropping down even lower still, we found ourselves going under the middle of the road. We knew that we were in the right place because we spied the container as soon as we peeked into the tunnel, now featuring a brand new barn owl nest built directly onto the lid. For our last find, we even had an audience. The happy puppies in this yard enjoyed the antics watching us try to figure out how to open up this gadget geocache. While I did greatly enjoy the find, I enjoyed the pleasure of their company that much more. How do you feel about meeting dogs while geocaching? Drop down in the comments and let me know. In Woodward, the county seat of Woodward County, we stopped by the Woodward Centennial Park. This is actually a 3-part memorial celebrating the 1987 centennial of Woodward, honoring the veterans of Woodward, and honoring the victims of the Great Woodward Tornado. This was the single most deadly tornado ever to strike the state of Oklahoma. On April 9th of 1947, a nearly 2-mile wide tornado tore across 100 miles of ground. By the time the skies had cleared, more than 116 Oklahoma residents had lost their lives. Moving out of Woodward toward our next stop in our net, we come across a couple of odd statues in our path. These make an interesting welcome into the county seat of Ellis County with a population of about 500 people. The memorial wall found here in this quiet town is a simple tribute that does humble honor to our veterans. Each brick is inscribed with names of Ellis County veterans that have served. Out of our net, we would need to go further south still to reach Roger Mills County, the 4th least populated county in the state of Oklahoma with only about 3,500 residents. Fortunately for us, the lack of people out here does not translate to a lack of geocaches to be found. The Oklahoma Land Run stretches right through the county, which is a series of geocaches that stretches across the entire state of Oklahoma from east to west. This series helped us to make very short work of the county and move right along. We next find ourselves in Visai within Dewey County with a population of about 600 people. We check out the town mural, pay our respects at the Veterans Memorial, and then move just down the road to Sailing. Only slightly larger than Visai just down the road, there are about 850 people to be found here. And yet, those 850 people represent the largest population in any town found within Dewey County. The combination mural, static display of military equipment, and Veterans Memorial helped to paint a small picture of the town's history. It was named for Lewis Sailing, who acquired a homestead during the land run of 1892. As the owner of a local store, he was a well-known and respected member of the community. And somehow, despite being more than 25 miles from the nearest railroad depot in Canton, Sailing developed as a local agricultural center. Our final planned stop for the day is the city of Fairview, the county seat of Major County with a population of just over 2,500 people. Following a short stop at a local Veterans Memorial and the town mural, we push on just a little bit further to reach the Marshall McCauley Homestead, Oklahoma Centennial Farm. The museum found here is centered around a sod house built by Marshall McCauley in 1894. While sod houses were once a fairly common architectural style to be found throughout the region, the sod house housed within this museum is now the only remaining sod house in Oklahoma built by settlers.
All right, It looks like that is the end of our day. Only 99 still left to go. We began our morning in Hooker, and from there, we immediately popped north to get ourselves into Liberal, Kansas, and then made our way over to Meade State Park before hopping back down into Oklahoma once again. Once we came back into Oklahoma, with the exception of Woodward, which was a fairly big city, every other place that we went through today had small town written all over it. Most of them looked like they had seen better days. Very few of them featured any murals, statues, or anything like that to see along the way. But we did discover quite a few veterans memorials along our route today. It has been interesting to watch the land take on a gradual transition as we dropped down out of New Mexico and began to cross across the Panhandle. It had the look and feel of Kansas to it when we headed through our day yesterday, but by the time we got to about midway through our day today, we were in rolling hills and no longer in flat farms, but grasslands filled with cattle. Thank you guys for joining us today as we continue our tour across Oklahoma. Like this video, subscribe to stay tuned for daily updates, and we'll see you out on the trails.